A secret society is no longer a secret. Here's a look at McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, the Gold Label Collection, Court of Owls, Nightwing vs. Talon, an Owl. Nightwing faces another villain claiming to be the Talon at City Hall as the Court of Owls plan to go into action. But will they be able to figure out what's going on before it's too late? A clandestine organization active since the birth of Gotham City, the Court of Owls is a powerful, well-connected cabal of Gotham City's society's elite. However, to bend an entire city to its will, a court deployed a succession of lethal enforcers, a near-invisible assassin haunting the night before vanishing without a trace. The Talons served the court after undergoing a series of demanding challenges, including physical and mental conditioning, ensuring the loyalty to their cause above all else. It does seem that court is in session again, but before we look at Exhibit O, that's O for owls, let's go ahead and grab the tape measure and just see how tall the figures stand. While I'm doing this as well, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that were kind enough to provide this sample. Essentially, this box set is reusing a lot of the molds. We've gotten this Nightwing before, we've gotten this Talon before, and even though it wasn't an owl before, we have gotten this body before. Taking, though, the tape measure, and then we'll kind of discuss things further. First, though, Nightwing's going to stand at 6 3/4 of an inch in height. He is. That's going to translate, though, to a figure that's 17 centimeters tall. Then on to Talon with a slightly different deco. That figure is going to stand at 7 inches in height, translating to a figure that's 18 centimeters tall. And then to Owl, who is probably about the same size as Nightwing, maybe just a tad bit taller. He's actually about 6 3/4 of an inch in height, or about maybe 17 centimeters tall. So, matching up the bodies that are part of this pack, Nightwing, before being part of this set, his body was used before as part of the Build a Beast Boy wave. That was the Teen Titans wave where you got the chance to build a big furry Beast Boy. Same body, different paint, different head sculpt. I wish I could have said the same for Talon, but essentially his body from head to toe is the same one that was used for the one that was sold separately. Now with Talon, at least, because there's been different characters that have played the role in Court of Owls, I kind of like the idea that we are getting another release of him with a different color scheme. For the actual owl, though, while it's not an owl we've gotten before, his body has been, yes, used before. It was part of the Three Jokers line, and he was actually the criminal Joker. Down to even the fact that they still sculpted in the spats on his shoes. They haven't changed that at all. And just for the sake of bringing in a Batman, here's also what they look like with the one from Nightfall. Getting a trio out of the packaging, one thing confused me right away was the fact that we get ourselves 3 figures. And yet, though, we only get ourselves 2 display stands. Not unless they had such assurance that one figure would stand a little bit better than the other two, that only 2 really get afforded display stands. But you would think, though, as a first time buying any DC Multiverse figure, let's just say you're the first time ever buying anything from Todd and his team, you'd like to think, though, if you're going to get yourself 3 figures, you'd also, in fact, get yourself 3 display stands. The stands themselves are identical to one another. They have the branded DC logo down below, and still manage to pull off neighboring pegs to the far corner. But again, you have to be really choosy as to which figure actually gets these. Let's move that off to the side. One thing I really also like about this set is you get yourself a laminated card. Now, while unfortunately there is no way to stand this card upright, I mean, not only does this set unfortunately lose 1 display stand for the figure, but it also would have been nice had they included a display stand to help prop this up. You get yourself Talon, a black-clad Talon, battling a red-clad Nightwing. And it's all laminated, so it's got a nice surface space to it. If you want to flip this though around, I think the more impressive image though on the back is the Court of the Owls. So nice, in fact, I'm planning to actually put this on display behind the characters. Had it only though been a case that they included a display stand, it would have made displaying it so much easier. Let's move that off to the side. As for the figure's accessories, you get yourself some blades for Talon. Those are the same blades, in fact, that the original Talon got before. You get yourself some Eskrima sticks for Robin, and you get yourself an owl. I mean, how many times can we actually say we've gotten ourselves, an owl? First, though, backing up a bit, the figure does come include, at least for Robin, 2 Eskrima sticks. They are molded, yes, in black plastic. It doesn't look like they've got any additional paint on them at all. And of course, he does have the means, he does have gripping hands to hold both Eskrimas. Unfortunately, though, with using this particular body of Nightwing, there are no clips on the back of his body. Has been the time in the past, certainly, that Nightwings have come included with little pegs, so if you want to attach them Eskrima sticks on the back, you could do that. But because, again, like we're looking at the Beast Boy release of Nightwing, You can see that the original one didn't also have the clips on the back of his back either. The Eskimo sticks, obviously, you can easily put into his hand. I shouldn't say super easily. It does involve you prying the fingers at least away from the palm. Get the Eskimo stick there in his one hand, and yeah, you can easily do the exact same thing on the other. There are no swappable hands this time around, and I don't really think either that they need them have them always anyways. I always kind of feel like if you're going to have characters with weapons, just stick with the idea of gripping hands. I know some people would kind of favor the idea of closed fists. For me, at least, open hands are fine and good. So that's what he looks like with the Eskimo sticks. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Taking and removing those right now. And we'll obviously bring back in the Beast Boy wave version of Nightwing. You can guys see the differences between the two. You know, from a sculpting standpoint, you can clearly see what has already been sculpted before. So like the shoulder, for example, does have that same sculpting line right there. And also as well, his Nightwing logo is the exact same too. The one thing, though, that they have done is where the original Nightwing would have had a non-painted area for his trunks, they've now gone in there and painted it red. Down below as well, the exact same feat. Although, unfortunately, though, while the original Nightwing would have had an outlining on the bottoms of his soles, the new Nightwing doesn't have that at all. What he does, though, have, is some additional red that they've added to the collar. They've also added the red, but the red being that this is now painted and the symbol down below here is clearly sculpted. It's strange, really, that the two reds don't quite match, because I can't imagine they obviously would have sculpted this. This is all done here in black plastic. So easily it would have been just for them to go in and use the same shiny red that they use for the arms, they use for the top, and they use for the collar. I guess maybe they did that also so that the symbol would stand out a little bit more. The head sculpt is okay. It's not one of my favorite Nightwings. It's not one of my least favorite Nightwings. It sort of sits in the middle for me. Hair sculpted well for what it is. We've got sort of a Batman and Robin style of mask here for Nightwing. Overall, the face is okay. The articulation on this guy is going to be the exact same as the other Nightwing. So, of course, if you're familiar with that figure, you'll be familiar with this figure. Head's going to rotate all the way around. It's going to look up. It's going to look down. You can also move it back and forth, too. Upper torso ball joint. Lower torso ball joint. The arms rotate all the way around. You can also easily hinge them out at 90 degrees or a T pose. There's a swivel at the arm, at least at the bicep. There's also possessing a double hinge on the elbow. And the hands rotate all the way around. Again, when you're looking at the figure mold between the two, one other thing also that's different about this figure that they did incorporate is that the original Nightwing didn't also have the gauntlet blades. The new Nightwing does have that, the original Nightwing doesn't. So it isn't simply just a case from head to toe, it's using the exact same body. They have taken some new creative luxuries when it comes to the new design of Nightwing. Not exactly the same, but very still similar. As we move a little bit further now with the articulation. Legs split out. Yes, you can move them forward and back easily enough. There's a swivel there at the top of the thigh. Double hinge on the knee. And it still has the same possessed articulation in the ankle. Back and forth. A little bit of a rocker there as well. And yes, toe articulation. Kind of wish that they could have added still the red panel lining down below. I mean, that's not a big deal breaker at all. In the end, it's still a nice looking Nightwing. That wasn't really an issue at all with the initial Nightwing that we had gotten from the Beast Boy wave. And I think that now giving him a red color scheme instead of the blue works quite well with this particular mold. In fact, let's go ahead. I just finished talking about the display stands earlier. We'll get this eye in the display stand. The Beast Boy Nightwing from before, I always seem to have a hard time getting that guy to stand. So we're just going to skip right to the idea of getting this guy standing properly with the use of the display stand. Again, you only get two of them. On to now, though, Talon. Now, Talon, unfortunately, I don't have all the accessories from the black-clad Talon, but I can tell you at least, though, that the knives and the swords are the exact same ones that we already had gotten. So this is the ones that we got here from Talon, the brown version at least. You can see that the coloring of the hilt and the guard molded in the same sort of brown as what they will paint then for Talon's body. If I can just reach off to the side here and grab the black version Talon, you can see exact same knife, exact same knife, exact same knife, exact same knife. Just as one black, obviously one is brown. He also would have come included with some swords as well. I don't know the whereabouts of the swords for that Talon. I certainly, though, know the whereabouts for the Talon swords for this guy. The blades, again, look to be exactly the same, so they're just carbon copies times 2. And also, as well, you can see there's the nice-looking guards and hilts. He does also have himself a sheath. Now, the sheath, the way it works is there's a slit on the side. You basically just take yourself your swords and you slide them in place. You kind of want to match up the shapes first before you start going in entry-wise. Because, unfortunately, though, like these swords don't sheath very well at all. You always kind of feel like you're fighting against the blades. And again, probably one of the reasons why they make the slit all the way down like this is because they know like you're going to have a struggle when it comes to actually getting these things to properly sit in place. As you move this along, you can easily see, though, that it splits open the sheath. So it doesn't do the most successful of jobs of holding them. And you can clearly see like the blade is still sticking out the sides, but at least there's a place to store the swords. By the way, though, speaking of storing the swords, you can take the sheath located on the back of his body, just behind his strap here. You just basically take yourself the peg, plug it in place, and now you got yourself the Talon that has the blades. I kind of wish, again, like the blades could have gone a little bit further down. I suppose you probably could push them a little bit further down, but it loses some of the illusion if you have the blades sticking out way down here. It just means that you're going to have a lot more sticking up way up here. Taking this off for a second, we'll just put that off to the side. Bringing in the original Talon. I personally really liked the first released Talon that we got. You can see that really, again, like mold-wise, they're exactly the same. In fact, unlike Nightwing that may have had a slight tweak to his gauntlets, I don't think at all there's anything different between this Talon and the one we had gotten before. One thing I do like, though, is the fact that they went in there and painted the goggles now red, whereas the original version Talon would have had the goggles kind of more in a bluish gray. He's got the blades there on his front bandolier. Unfortunately, you can't pull those off. And one thing that was kind of interesting about this Talon that carries over the same issue I kind of had with the original one is that he has on the side here what looks to be a sheath, a serviceable sheath. You can see the way it's open like this. And yet, unfortunately, though, you wouldn't be able to take the blade. I mean, the blade, look at the size of the blade, look at the size of the sheath. There's no way you'd be able to store the blade in there. And yet, though, it does look like it'd be able to hold something. As for the actual outfit, just done here brown. The original one obviously would have done it in black. I really like the black. I think really the black is my favorite of the two. But I got to say, because again, we've gotten ourselves a couple of Talons in the Court of Owls, I don't mind at all that we're getting ourselves a brown version of him, especially if you missed your chance to get this guy. Maybe he's a little bit more expensive to get your hands on now. You can get your hands on this guy maybe a little bit easier. Head sculpt looks, again, really cool. Always was a big fan of Talon, the Court of Owls as a whole. For the articulation on this guy, again, it's the exact same as the original one, so your head's going to rotate all the way around. Now, he kind of weirdly wears a mask. The mask kind of conceals what will be his ball joint. It does, unfortunately, limit a little bit of the posability, but not as much as you would think. Head's going to look up and down. You can still rock it back and forth, and yeah, you can still rotate the head all the way around. He also has himself a secondary piece that goes over top of his main body. This isn't a piece that separates at all, and basically what it is just a collar piece that goes around the backs of his shoulders here. These shoulders, speaking of which, though, rotate all the way around. You can easily, again, hinge them out at that T-pose. There's a swivel at the bicep, double hinge on the elbow, and the hands rotate all the way around. The original Talon would have had his gauntlets here, as you can see, in silver. The new Talon now has them in gold. I gotta say, the gold looks really nice in this figure. Upper torso, ball joint. Follow along with me. Lower torso, abdomen, ball joint. Once again, you got the leg splits on this figure. Legs go forward, they go back. A bit of a swivel again at the top of the thigh. Double hinge on the knee. No articulation at all from this section down. Top of the knee, or I guess the bottom of the knee, all the way down to the bottom of his ankle, basically is one sculpted calf piece. He has, however, though, ankle articulation. You can move that back and forth. Ankle rocking posability. That also works there as well. And the figure, again, does have toe articulation. So, again, if you missed your chance to get your hands on the first Talon, I would still say, like, source out the first Talon if you can, because I kind of prefer the black color of the two a little bit more. I gotta say, though, the brown works really well for this mold. Speaking, though, of molds, moving off now to the owl. Now, again, while the owl is using the same body as the criminal Joker from the Three Jokers line, down to even the fact that the figure still retains the same sculpted spats. It would have been nice had they gone in there and maybe given him a different pair of footwear, but other than that, it's nothing really to tell you that this has to be necessarily a Joker body. I mean, we kind of recognize by now what a Joker body would be. Ideally, though, if you also want to remove the head here from the owl, you could, in theory, also rotate and you can swap it around with either a Bruce Wayne head sculpt. You could also maybe do that with like a Lex Luthor as well. I think either one of them would work really well with just a standard suit body like this. The owl mask, while looking really quite good, unfortunately can't remove it. It's permanently adhered or permanently attached and molded to the figure's face. It looks okay. I would love if they could release like a multi-pack of owl characters. You know, slightly different builds, maybe slightly different masks, different hairstyles, but again, like a trio pack. I don't think I would want to ask anything more than 3 figures in a set, but maybe just a set of Court of Owl characters would be ideal. The mask, though, is looking really good on this. Generally quite painted well. The only issue I really have with painting isn't so much really the mask, it's the neck below that. The mask for me, or this section down below here for me, looks a little muddy. And there also seems to be a sculpted line right here. I don't think has anything at all to do with the fact it was used before by Joker, but there's this kind of weird line right there in the sculpting. The neck paint is a little on the more muddier side. It's also a little muddy there also on the hands, but for the rest of the figure, it looks quite good. The jacket is not one you'd be able to open up because they're also using the jacket overlay over top of an essential body from before. It means that there's also going to be this gap space. See how there's a bit of a pocket space in between what would be normally his arms. And his arms, again, are part of his suit jacket, but unfortunately, just to accommodate the articulation on his character, he has to have a space right here, which, you know, loses some of the illusion, but it still is a nice-looking figure. Now, he does come included with an owl. I think maybe, is this the first time we've gotten ourselves this owl mold? I'm sure maybe they could use it before again for another character. I can't really think of another character that could use an owl. If you can think of one, let me know down below. Owl overall looks good. Again, they've sculpted and painted in the feathers nicely. You can see there also is the ears and the eyes. Whenever I think of the owl, I always think of the one from Scooby-Doo. Is it the Weep-A-Woe? No, that's not it. It's going to come to me a little bit later. Anyways, though, he does have sort of the way to perch the owl. You can see he's got an extended figure. Now, what I ended up doing, though, was I took the talons, not this guy, the talons, though, of the owl. And what I kind of did was I tucked it underneath the finger. And it does an okay enough job that if you can get it balanced just right, the owl seems to stay in place. Now, again, you can kind of just cheat and tuck it in between the fingers of the owl here. Not this owl, this owl here. Just kind of tuck the talon in between the fingers, and you can kind of get it in the balance. I'm not really going to do as good of a job now because everybody's watching me, but you can kind of get it resting there. I had done that at the beginning of this review. But for the articulation, though, for the owl, again, you got yourself your ball joint that rotates all the way around. It doesn't seem like he's got himself maybe he does, a ball joint at the base of his neck. It doesn't seem like it moves as freely, though, as his head. Well, again, because he's got himself the jacket here, it does impede some of the articulation that you'd expect a figure like this to have. The arms, though, rotate all the way around. You can easily hinge them out. Again, you got yourself the swivel. The swivel cuts all the way through the bicep. He does also have a double hinge at his possession for his elbow. Hands rotate all the way around. Legs split, forward and back motion. Swivel slightly, though, on the top of the thigh. Much more of a joint, though, bend in his knee. And again, you've got yourself the articulation. Again, it's a bit of a bummer that, unfortunately, the spats are still sculpted into the shoes. I mean, again, like if they wanted to tool some new things, I think one of the new things that they could easily have done is sculpted brand new shoes for the owl. All in all, though, it's a nice looking set. One thing that kind of is, for me at least, the draw of getting a set like this is we first of all get ourselves a brand new Talon. The Nightwing is good. I will say there's nothing really wrong with the Nightwing, just because, again, like the initial Nightwing we got from the Beast Boy wave was a fine figure for its time, and I think like the mold still holds up now. They also have swapped the blue now in favor of the red, giving them different head sculpt. I think I still like, though, the head sculpt that was part of the Beast Boy wave as probably one of my favorite sculpts for Nightwing. But the new one that we get now is not a bad thing at all. Of course, we got ourselves a brand new Talon, which is, again, essentially just a recolor of the first Talon we got, with the exact same accessories also included in him as well. Oh, and then for the owl, honestly, though, I would love to really be able to build a figure that. Unfortunately, though, it would mean that I'd have to go back and keep buying this set again. And I mean, I don't need another Talon. I certainly don't need another Nightwing. I do need more Core the Owl characters. Maybe if McFarlane and his team could see that, I would love to see them maybe release a 2-pack or even, dare I say, a 3-pack of Owl characters, just so we can have a couple of them to go be displayed along with Talon here. Even though really all three of these figures are using molds from figures we've already gotten before, the fact that they find different ways to apply paint to these characters makes them feel at least like they're brand new molds. I mean, like, look at Talon, for example. Head to toe, he's the same Talon as the singular release of the character that we've already gotten already. But the fact that they've now done him in brown instead of just the black, had they, say, for example, included the black Talon, I would have looked at the set and I thought to myself, well, I already have one of the 3 figures that are part of this set. I don't know if I would be nudged just to get another Nightwing and to get the Owl, because the Owl would be the one I was the most interested in, but at least they gave him a brown version Talon. And because we've had a couple of characters portray the role of Talon in the Court of the Owls, I can get behind at least we've got ourselves 2 variations of Talon, 2 different characters underneath the Talon mask. One thing that's kind of interesting, though, about the Talon is I found a convenient way to store and have the owl displayed on his arm. If you actually take the talons of the owl and you slot it into the blades of the Talon, the figure, it seems to be a good enough job to kind of keep the owl from falling over. Nightwing also is just a reused mold from the Beast Boy wave, but again, giving it a different deco, giving it a different head sculpt, it feels like it's a brand new Nightwing. And of course, you got also the owl. We can't have this discussion about the Court of Owls without actually including an owl. And even though really, again, the body is just simply the criminal Joker with a different deco, yes, and yeah, it's a bit of a bummer that they had to still keep the spats on his shoes, giving him the mask on his head and giving him a different costume. First of all, you could use this suit for another figure. I'm thinking of Bruce Wayne, and first things first, I was thinking of a Lex Luthor. I have an armored Lex Luthor. I wonder if the head sculpt would work with the suit. I mean, I hope, though, that down the road, McFarlane would consider the idea of releasing maybe a 2-pack, maybe even, dare I say, a 3-pack of the Court of the Owls. That would be a set would love to get in my collection and my hands on. What do you guys think of this set? Let me know down below in the comments section. A big thank you again to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the Gold Label Collection, Court of the Owls, Nightwing versus Talon, and Owl. What do you guys think of this? Let me know down below in the comments section. Would you also be interested in getting a 2-pack or even 3-pack of Owl characters in their suits? If you guys did also enjoy this video, you can do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. Hit that subscribe. Yes, turn on that bell. I guess the most important thing is also that you're coming back because there's a lot more reviews coming your way. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.